By the time I was 21, I'd been a father, an addict. Dad had won full custody of his daughter. This is the full story, and I've never told it properly. This isn't a video about how bad it got, it's about how the man gets built. From a 6-year-old who needed a father to a 21-year-old who had to become one. If you're a dad and something underneath isn't right, this story might do something for you. That's the only reason I'm telling it. I was 6 when my stepdad came into my life. I didn't have to, he didn't have to, he chose to. And that's the first thing I want you to understand about this story. Because the man I eventually became as a dad was built on top of the man who chose to be mine first. My stepdad for me when I was younger, he was always so kind, thoughtful, played with me and my sister, came into our lives when I was 6, my sister was 2. And he made my mum happy, which I was grateful for, because she deserved all the happiness in the world. And him just being there and loving us the way he did, it meant everything to me. I didn't really fully understand it, what it meant to be, and what it meant until I was a dad myself. You'll see why later in this video. The teenage years were where it started to come apart. Not all at once, slowly, the way things usually do. So, taking you back to when I was in school, I was living with my dad for a bit because I had an argument with my mum and stepdad, and it ended in me moving in with my dad in a different place. There, I had a good group of friends, and I was predicted very high grades in school. But then my stepmom at the time, my dad's partner, she was very, she used to emotionally blackmail me, is what I got told off social services. The way she used to belittle me, tell me stuff. One incident where, I can't remember what I did, but the punishment was I had to sit in a conservatory by myself all the time, apart from when I was at school or going to bed. So that was basically my home. Conservatory, no contact with anyone. Only books, no TV, nothing, not allowed to go out with my friends. I had to not turn up to football practice, do the stuff I wanted to do. And my dad didn't have the balls to tell her it was wrong. And that did something to me because it felt like I wasn't worth anything, or I wasn't worth anything, or I wasn't wanted or heard. My opinion didn't matter, I didn't matter. That's the way it made me feel. I think that's why I'm so shut off today. Because the way that made me feel, the way she treated me, it broke me in ways it shouldn't break anyone at 12, 13 years old, being belittled like that, being told, being made to feel that I was worthless, I didn't mean anything. In the end, social services got involved. Before I moved back to my mum's, my friend's mum took me in and looked after me, which I was very grateful for. She was amazing. I still stay in contact with her now, and she tells me how proud she is of how the man I've become and the dad I've become. But she was like my saving light at the time, looking after me, caring for me. Oh yeah. But most men I've spoken to since who've been through addiction will tell you the same thing. It doesn't arrive, it builds, and you don't see it until you're already in it. By 17, 18, I was deep in addiction. I'm not going to go into detail with it. That's not what this video is. What I'll tell you is this: I had no idea who I was. I had no map for how to come back, and I genuinely didn't know if I was going to. It got to the point when I was addicted to cocaine that I'd come home on a night after work. I used to go home, be home for about 11. I'd pick up on the way home, and then I'd just sit in bed watching TV, snorting lines, and I'd do that until about 4:35 in the morning. But it got to the point where I'd do that, I'd crash at that time. I'd have to be back in work for 9, 10 o'clock, and one day I didn't wake back up until 5 o'clock. And the amount of missed calls, messages I had off work colleagues asking where I was, why I wasn't in work. It's like I knew I had to change. I had to become better. I had to get out of this hole I was in. But I didn't want to speak to anyone about it. I wanted to deal with it by myself because I didn't want to burden anyone else with how I was feeling and what I was going through. But then in the middle of all that, I found out I was going to be a dad as well. I was 19, I was in no condition on paper to be anyone's father. But my daughter was coming, she was expected. And here's the thing, I didn't expect it the day I found out. I didn't feel relief or excitement. I felt the weight of every man I'd ever needed to be, including the one my stepdad had to be for me when I was 6. I knew I was about to become the man I either deserved to be or the man my kid would have to forgive one day in the future. So the way I found out Ava's mum was pregnant was through text, or it might have been a phone call, can't remember which one. I was at work at the time. And to be honest, I didn't know what to think, because I was in no state of mind to be a dad. It was scary. But I knew I needed to get better and be better for her, especially with her on the way. For me, getting sober, it wasn't a moment. It was more like 1,000 decisions made badly, then better over a long time. There were weeks I wanted to disappear, weeks I told myself she'd be better off without me. That was the hardest lie of the whole thing, because part of me actually believed it. The thing that kept me showing up wasn't motivation. It was the man my stepdad had been for me, and the man I know I had to be for her. I held it forward. For me, getting over my addiction, like I said before, I didn't want to burden anyone with it. So I decided to go cold turkey and do it for her. She was my main reason. So I started off by cutting out the drugs and keeping the alcohol, but I kept relapsing and I couldn't figure out why. It took me a year or two to figure out that my cause was the people I was hanging out with and drinking. So I had to be ruthless and cut both. So I cut the people I was hanging around with because all they was doing was drugs, drinking. But I knew for me to be the man and father my daughter needed, I had to be ruthless. I had to do what was necessary to get clean. It took me a while, but I eventually got there. I haven't touched drugs since I was 20 now. I've had a couple of drinks here and there, but I only drink when I have people around me that I know are going to stop me, and I know my limit of what I can drink. I mean, it's very rarely I actually do, but it's all, I never go out to the pub thinking I'm going to go for a drink. I usually do it when I'm with my partner in the house, and I only have one or two. It did take longer than I wanted to admit, but by 20, I was a different man. By 21, I had my daughter full time. So at 21, I won full custody of my daughter. I won't go into the legal stuff in this video because I've already done one going fully into the legal side of things. But I will say this, the court doesn't matter what kind of man you are. They care about what kind of kind of dad you can prove you are and have been. Every dad I'd built myself into over the previous 2 years, was a dad they were looking at. The paperwork just witnessed it. That was the moment I realised something specific. The man my stepdad had chosen to be for me at 6. I had now chosen to be that for my own daughter, not because anyone forced me to, because I'd seen what it does to a kid when a man steps in. That's the spine of this whole story. A man chose to be my dad. I chose to be hers. That was 9 years ago. My daughter is now 8. I'm still her father every single day. That's the only one thing that does matter in this story. I'm also the man who's building this community. Well, built this community, the Father's Brotherhood Hub. I built it because I needed it before it even existed. Because no dad should have to do what I did alone, the way I did. There were too many years I carried it on my own. It was survival. It should never have been that lonely. That's the whole reason this community exists, is so you know you aren't alone. You will not be judged for what you've been through. You don't need to have had the exact story I had to have the question I'm about to ask you. Are you the dad your kid's going to talk about when they're 40 with gratitude? Or are you going to be the one they have to forgive? Most of us are still deciding whether we know it or not. And the thing I tell my younger self, if I go back, is the thing I say to you now. You don't have to do this alone. You don't have to wait until you've got it figured out. The choosing is the work. Choose forward. One day, then the next. If anything in this video landed, just 2 quick things. There's a 4-minute audit in the description if you want to delve deeper into the 5 pillars of growth, identity, custody, discipline and brotherhood. If you want to work on any of these, if you answer the 15 questions, it will give you an answer at the end of which one is making you bleed the most. Then it'll point you into direction to start fixing this. It's free, no catch. And there's also a free community link there too. If you genuinely have no men around you, this is the place for you, and it's a place to start. The link's there. Hit subscribe. There's a video on each of those 5 pillars coming, probably in long form. This is the spine. The rest builds out from here. Thanks for sitting through this with me. It's the first time I told the whole thing out loud. You aren't in this alone, not anymore.